Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiro Banachari Jamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiro Banachari Yamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jai Mahatma Mansa Paribhajagacharya Sakare Krishna Bhakti-Vedanta Saraswati Goswami Bhagavati Jai Nanda Gauri Vaishnava Ki Jai Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Names of the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivacharya Gaur Bhakti Jai Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Kanda Radha Kanda Giri Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Swami the Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the All glories to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're fortunate we have His Grace, JIVA TATTVA Prabhu, who is here, who is going to be speaking with us. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for honoring the invitation. We'll put the verse on the screen and you can take over.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to devotees and glorify Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Would you like me to share?
Just a minute. I can give you sharing host, possibly if you want. But I'm putting this verse on the screen now.
As you like. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, there we go. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, good.
For some reason, okay, part of the screen is appearing gray with lines. That's okay.
Yeah. Yes, so you can start, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So let's start with the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiryet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shama Kirtanaha Hridayantasto He Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagvat Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Nashtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are covering Canto 3, Chapter 3, which are Lord's pastimes outside Vrindavan. So Mathura Leela and Dwarka Leelas are being considered here, and also Lord's engagement in the battle of Kurukshetra. And today's verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 3rd Chapter, 14th verse. Kiyan bhuvoyam shapito rubharo yad drona bhishma juna bhima mulahe ashtadachakshani ko madam she raste balam durvishaham yadunam. Now this can also be done in a Western meter, that is sometimes we refer to as Brahma Samhita's meter. Kiyan bhuvoyam shapito rubharo yad drona bhishma juna bhima mulehe ashtadashakshani ko madam she aste balam durvishaham yadunam. Synonyms, word for word. Kiyan, what is this? Bhuvaha, of the earth. Ayum, this. Shupita, abated. Uru, very great. Bharaha, burden. Yat, which. Drona, Dronacharya. Bhishma, Bhishma. Arjun, Arjun. Bhima, Bhim. Mulahe, with the help. Ashtadasha, 18. Akshohinika, phalanxes of military strength, as provided in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1634. Mad amshehe, with my descendants, aste, are still there, balam, great strength, durvishaham, unbearable, yadunam, of the Yadu dynasty. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 Akshahines, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjun, and Bhima. But what is this? There is still the great strength of the Yadu dynasty, born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden. Burden? It is a wrong theory that due to an increase in population, the world becomes overburdened, and therefore there are wars and other annihilating processes. The earth is never overburdened. The heaviest mountains and oceans on the face of the earth hold more living entities than there are human beings, and they are not overburdened. If a census were taken of all the living beings on the surface of the earth, certainly it would be found that the number of humans is not even 5% of the total number of living beings. If the birth rate of human beings is increasing, then the birth rate of other living beings is increasing proportionately. The birth rate of lower animals, beasts, aquatics, birds, etc. is far greater than that of human beings. There is an adequate arrangement for food for all the living beings all over the earth by the order of the Supreme Lord, and He can arrange more and more if there is actually a disproportionate increase of living beings. Therefore, there is no question of an increase in population causing a burden. The earth became overburdened due to dharmaglani, or irregular discharge of the Lord's desire. The Lord appears on the earth to curb the increase in miscreants and not the increase in population, as is wrongly put forward by the mundane economist. When Lord Krishna appeared, there had been a sufficient increase in miscreants who had violated the desire of the Lord. The material creation is meant for fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and his desire is that the conditioned souls who are unfit to enter into the kingdom of God have a chance to improve their conditions for entering. The entire process of cosmic arrangement is intended just to give a chance to the conditioned souls to enter the kingdom of God, and there is an adequate arrangement for their maintenance by the nature of the Lord. Therefore, although there may be a great increase in population on the surface of the earth, if the people are exactly in line with God consciousness and are not miscreants, such a burden on the earth is a source of pleasure for her. There are two kinds of burdens. There is the burden of the beast and the burden of love. The burden of beast is unbearable, but the burden of love is a source of pleasure. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti describes the burden of love very practically. He says that the burden of the husband on the young wife, the burden of the child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of wealth on the businessman, although actually burdens from the viewpoint of heaviness, are sources of pleasure. And in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. When Lord Krishna referred to the burden of the Yadu dynasty on the earth, he referred to something different than the burden of the beast. The large number of family members born of Lord Krishna counted to some millions and was certainly a great increase in the population of the earth. There is a gray box covering the screen. But because all of them were expansions of the Lord himself by his transcendental plenary expansions, they were a source of great pleasure for the earth. When the Lord referred to them in connection with the burden of the earth, he had in mind their imminent disappearance from the earth. All the members of the family of Lord Krishna were incarnations of different demigods, and they were to disappear from the surface of the earth along with the Lord. When he referred to the unbearable heaviness on the earth in connection with the Yadu dynasty, he was referring to the burden of their separation. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this inference. Hare Krishna. Let's seek blessings from Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pashatya Deshtarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Din Taranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today, this is a very interesting verse where this is a conversation between Vidwan Vidur and Uddhav. And Uddhav is remembering the Lord. So this is also like, he's remembering in separation, which is referred to as Vipralamba Seva. And it's the exalted highest form of meditation and Seva, service to the Lord, pure devotion service, where Uddhav is calling out all these pastimes of the Lord. And here he is referring to what is burden of love, not. So this is Lord Krishna's thinking, and Uddhav is revealing this because he was the advisor for Lord Krishna, and he's carrying on the message, the last message of Lord Krishna, back to, over to Nar Narayan Rishi in Bhadrikashram. And in the way at Prabhas, he happened to meet Vidwan Vidur. Why am I not saying Mahatma Vidur? Because he gets the title of Mahatma Vidur after his conversation happens with Maitreya Muni. So where he receives the transcendental knowledge. And we all covered in the previous sessions that he is none other than Yamraj. So Vidur is, Yamraj born in the form of Vidur as Shudra. His mother was from Shudra side. And who was his father? If you know the name of the personality of who was his father, please write in the chat. And if you wrote Srila Krishna Dvaipanya Vyasdev, then you are correct. Hare Krishna. So this conversation is going on, and Vidur is observing all ecstatic symptoms appearing in the very being of Uddhav, in the very body, like his ears are standing, his voice is choking up. Sometimes when someone's voice chokes up, we think, oh, the person is nervous. No, sometimes the person is having too many emotions also. You know, the eyes are constantly shedding tears and so forth. There's shaking in the body as well. So again, there's so many symptoms that reveal this behavior. And this verse, when Uddhav is saying, Acharyas actually, they help us dive deeper into the very meaning. So here Lord is thinking, Kiyan bhuvayam shapitoru bharo. So I have, the burden of earth has been relieved. How? Which this Ashta Dasha Akshahina. So Akshahina is referring to the phalanx, and Ashta refers to 8 and Dasha. So 8 plus 10 is 18. So at the Kurukshetra, war of Kurukshetra, on the Kaurava side, there were 11 Akshahinis, and on the Pandava side, there were 7 Akshahinis. So 18 Akshahinis got destroyed. But it's very interesting that previous to this, Lord Krishna, along with Lord Balaram, had destroyed 18 Akshahinis very easily 17 times. And who was the leader of these 18 Akshahinis who would keep attacking Mathura again and again and again? And on the 18th time, Lord, he actually devised a plan as if to stop that constant anxiety in the hearts of his devotees in Mathura. And he got them transferred to Dwarka. And he showed as if he's running away from the battlefield. So he's also glorified as Ranchor. And the leader of those attacks was none other than father-in-law of Kamsa. Now, who's the father-in-law of Kamsa? The father of Asti and Prapti. But who's the husband of Asti and Prapti? None other than Kamsa. So we have to understand the father-in-law was Avadha Raj Jarasangh. So again, that was Jarasangh. And Lord has sufficient potency to kill 18 Akshahinis very easily. And yet he is, when Uddhav is saying this, Acharyas have revealed that Lord is capable of taking care of these. And I do see some responses in the chat. Yes, Srila Vyasdev, Jarasan, that is correct. Thank you. And here we are seeing that Uddhav is saying that Lord is feeling that with the help of these personalities, Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitamaha, Arjun, the great archer, Bhima, the voracious eater, and the performer of Herculean tasks, they have destroyed this. But in reality, Lord likes to glorify his devotees. That's why we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, first 9 cantos, we see the glories of Lord's devotees, right? Because that makes Lord smile. And when we glorify the Lord, the devotees smile. So there's a constant reciprocation. This is loving exchange. Everyone wants to glorify the other party. Unlike this material world, where everyone wants to seek their own glorification. Devotees feel much happy when they glorify the Lord, when they glorify the Lord's pure devotees. So again, when we take shelter of the instructions of Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, Sridhar Swami. So again, we actually get benefited because Lord, he is so merciful that he endows same qualities in us. On the other hand, in the material world, when you open the newspaper, devotees don't really read newspapers, but what is given in newspaper? All bad news. Today, such and such person was criticizing such and such person. And then, so many people were robbed, so many accidents were there were so many fires, and the list goes on. There was theft in this neighborhood, and, there was domestic violence in that neighborhood and that home. All these news, this is what the news consists of. But if we look at And the real news comes to us in the form of back to Godhead, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chitta Chaitamrita. This is the real eternal news that is ever new. The material news is expired in a day, 24 hours. It's stale. People are looking for something new. And that's the nature of this material world. When people are going with material consciousness, they're always trying to find something else. And they go through the cycle of bhog tyag, right? They are trying to absorb something, capture something to make them feel satisfied. And then they renounce, okay, this is not useful anymore because another day has come and we have to find new items. And this kind of cycle is the nature of this material world. But for devotees, we have such transcendental literature where we see that even though Uddhav is himself showing by his example that even though he is remembering the Lord, it is like ever new, as if it just happened yesterday. And he's saying that Lord is glorifying his devotees. Bhishma is one of the 12 Mahajanas, we have to understand. Arjun is Lord Sakha. Bhima is more in a Sakha and Vatsalya bhav. And so we see, and Dronacharya, again, a great devotee of the Lord. And he is an Acharya also, so Drona. So here we are saying Lord is glorifying. However, there is one personality at Kurukshetra. He actually says that even though it may appear that Kurukshetra, so many warriors were fighting, at the end of the war, everyone approached. So there was this personality by the name Babarika. He was the son of Ghatotkach, and Ghatotkach was the son of Bhima. And Babarika was a great warrior. And let me give you some background. When Ghatotkach, sacrificed his life, and it actually was a benefit for Arjun because Karna had to use the Pashupati Shastra to kill Ghatotkach, a specific weapon, and it cannot be used second time because that's the boon Indra had given. You can only use it once, and then it would be returned. So now Arjun was saved. So Lord Krishna, he was smiling at that time. And Bhima said, my son died and you were smiling? He said, I'm not smiling because your son died. I'm smiling because Arjun's life has been spared. And Bhima understood that properly. And came Babrik, son of Ghatotkach. He said that I will fight from the weak side. And at that particular time, even though it started with 11 Akshayanis versus 7 Akshayanis, at that time, Pandavas were on the stronger side and the Kauravas were on the weak side. So he was going to join their side. And so this was a very big dilemma because Lord Krishna knew he's a great warrior. He only had 3 arrows in his quiver. And Lord Krishna said, how do you feel so confident that what can you do? He's like, see, with 1 arrow, I can destroy all of Kaurava's army. With another arrow, I can destroy all of Pandava's army. And I have this 3rd arrow. So Lord Krishna says, why don't you show me? So this is all given in Mahabharata. I'm just giving you some reference before I tell you what actually happened onto the battlefield. And so Lord Krishna says, okay, there is this banyan tree. And can you use your arrow with all that power that you have to pierce all the leaves, to get all the leaves? And he says, yes. And he shoots his arrow. That arrow is piercing all the leaf, but there's one leaf that breaks and falls on Lord Krishna's foot. And now the arrow is just circling around the foot. Okay, if it moves, then it will kill it because it would not touch Lord Krishna. Well, that would be an offense. So Lord Krishna at that particular time said, I would like you to give me a boon. So this is where Lord is asking. Acharyas say that, yes, everyone wants to see the God. But we should serve with such devotion, with such ability, because this ability in Babarika came because of the mercy of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna wants to glorify him. And Babarika says, yes, whatever you want. He says, just give me your head. So then Babarika says, okay, I'm dead in that case, right? Lord, just ask my head, I'm dead. And he says that, but I would like to ask for a boon in return. Lord Krishna says, yes, ask what your heart desire. And he says, there are 2 boons. He asks, one of them is that I want to watch the whole battle from the sky. I want to be able to see everything, the complete incident. Like, if a warrior is getting killed here, I should be able to see that, as well as warrior, fighting there. So I should be able to see the whole arena. And so he's watching the whole thing. At the end of the war, at the battle of Kurukshetra, now there is some controversy among the different warriors. They are thinking, who was better? Maybe Arjun was better. Maybe, Yudhishthir was better. Maybe Bhim was better. They couldn't decide who was the best warrior. And we also have, Dronacharya's brother-in-law. So again, so many personalities are there. So they say, you know what? Babrika was watching. Let's ask him. And when they asked Babrika, who was the greatest warrior? Arjun, Bhim, and so forth. Babrik literally, he laughed. He's like, the whole battlefield, there was only one personality killing. That was Lord Krishna. I could only see Sudarshan killing different warriors at different times. And it was so perfectly arranged that at the very last moment, they would see Lord Krishna, and so they would return back home, back to Godhead. So in reality, Lord actually killed all the warriors, but he glorified his devotees. That's why Lord Krishna says in the 11th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Nimittara matam bhavyasya visajin. You can only be an instrument in this effort. I have already killed all the warriors. He says that. And that's exactly what happened on the battlefield. So now that we are remembering this pastime, where it is a burden of love, not the burden of beast. Why? Because the 10th canto in Srimad Bhagavatam started with this aspect that Mother Earth went to Brahmalok in the form of a cow, begging to be saved from the burden of evil kings who are posing as kings, so-called kings, who are actually demons in their nature. They were not following any of the Vedic regulations, and they were causing havoc on planet Earth. It is said that Earth can bear the weight of millions of men, but cannot bear the weight of one liar. That is a fact. So people who are sinful are actually burden on Earth. And that's why she had gone, and Lord Brahma had taken with the demigods, he had gone to the Kshisagar and he had prayed to the Lord, and Lord said, yes, I will appear in Yadu dynasty and ask the demigods to appear in Yadu dynasty. And so Bhoj, Andak, and Yadu dynasties are where these various demigods are coming. And many of these demigods are there at this particular time. Where these demigods have become Yaduvanshis and are associates of the Lord. And being family member and kingsmen of the Lord, they were given the same level of potency as Lord Krishna himself. Now, there are three important aspects. One is Acharya's Rival Srila Sridhar Swami reveals that Lord, he is identifying that Bahubhi, this is the term used, that Lord, he is using his various arms, more than two, right? Various arms. He's not saying Dvibhi, he is saying Bahubhi, which means with his many arms. So it is Vishnu and Krishna who kills. That has been revealed by Sridhar Swami. When we see Lord, it appears that in Vrindavan so many demons were killed. Lord Krishna, he is busy in his loving pastime. He's not interested in killing demons. It is Vishnu and Krishna, because when Krishna appears, he appears with all his incarnations and Torage and associates. So it's Vishnu and Krishna who's actually killing the four-arm Vishnu Narayan form. He's the one who's killing these demons. He's the one who's killing these armies and so forth. And Krishna is constantly engaged in loving exchanges with his devotees. That is focus of Lord Krishna. Something very important. And in this regard, even in other faiths, we see such examples. There was this priest, he asked the lady, do you love God? And she says, yes, I love God. And then he asked the second question, do you hate Satan? She says, I don't hate Satan. So he's confused. So the priest says, you love God? She says, yes. You don't hate Satan? She says, no. He's like, how could it be? If you love God, you must hate Satan. And she says, when I'm loving God, there is no more time left to hate anything or anyone. That's higher consciousness. Because when we are focusing on loving something, giving something, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, there shouldn't be any time to do anything else. And that's the instruction of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Always think of me. That is always. So there is no time left to do anything else. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, pay obeisance unto me. And you will come back to me of this. There is no doubt. So we should understand from that perspective that our focus should be in serving the Lord. And Lord is powerful. He'll take care of anything that's unfavorable. Yet at the same time, sometimes people get bewildered and they start saying, if bhakti, if devotional service is so potent, I shouldn't be facing any difficulty. Well, that difficulty is faced on the material platform level. We see the Pandavas. They were constantly being harassed by their cousins. Duryodhana had tried to poison Bhima. He had tried to burn the Pandavas. He had tried to, plan killing them. He had taken everything, whatever they possessed. He had usurped it by cheating methods. Yet at the same time, the Pandavas were always following the Vedic principles, the Vedic regulations. They were so humble in their beginning. Bhima could have immediately rose in the assembly hall and challenged Duryodhana and killed him. But then, if he had done that, we would not have seen the Lord's mercy on Draupadi when she raises her hand and calls out, Govinda, save me. And Lord provides unlimited cloth. The Dushasan feels tired, but he's never able to dethrone him. So we see Lord's mercy. Lord is glorifying his devotees by these various qualities he's showing. So when we are tested in our lives, we should take it as a mercy of the Lord. All our past sinful reactions are passing away. They're getting washed off. And we are getting more and more purified. And it's actually enabling us to become closer to Lord. There is a saying that when we pray to the Lord in happy times, yes, that's normal, that's natural, very easy. But when it comes to tough times, how strong are we praying? That's our true test. How strongly are we taking his shelter? Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedesur etayor eva kinkara. Always remember Krishna. We call it smart mantra, smartavya, S-M-A-R-T. So we call it smart mantra because always remember Krishna, smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya na jatuchit. And never forget Krishna. These two principles are the key principles, and everything else, all of the rules and regulations are subservient to these two. So here we are seeing that from the example of Uddhav, who is in separation from Lord Krishna, having met Vidwan Vidur, he is remembering Lord Krishna, and this is what happens. When two devotees meet, they discuss only on one topic. Lord's eternal pastimes, the Ashtakaliya Leelas, and so many pastimes as they have witnessed or as they have heard of or as they have read. And they are Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. They are deriving transcendental bliss by conversing about the Lord. And Lord says in Chatur Shloki Gita, Kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. My devotees are constantly conversing about me. Lord's name, form, activities, pastimes, paraphernalia, and so forth. So here, this is where the conversation is going on. We understand Lord is glorifying his devotees as he's thinking that Bhishma, Bhima, Drona, and Arjun were the ones who helped me clean them up because he used them as the instruments in front of the people who don't fully understand things. Yet at the same time, it is Lord's potency that we receive as his mercy that we can engage in his service. That's the key lesson that we learn. Second aspect that comes is burden of love versus burden of beast. So now the Yadu dynasty, we have to also see that Yadu dynasty, as is given in Padma Purana elaborately, the warriors and the descendants in Yadu dynasty, some of them were the demigods, some of them were the eternal associates. They had become so powerful, as powerful as Lord Krishna himself. Now, which means if Lord Krishna returns back home, When Lord appears, he comes with his, eternal associates, with entourage, with his various incarnations, all of them. They are present in him and with him. But if he leaves and these personalities are left behind, two major things will happen. First of all is, they are so powerful that in the absence of Lord, they may become burden, right? So they may start causing havoc, because when someone is very powerful and they are disappointed and frustrated, that frustration comes out in an undesirable manner. We see this in the case of JIVA. So he was one of the generals in Sugriva's army, right? And he was helping Lord Ramchandra win over Lanka. That was the past time in Treta Yuga. But the same, the gorilla, later on became friends with Kansa. They actually had a big fight, and Lord Brahma had to come down and say, none of you can win because both are equally powerful. So they became friends. And Dvivida caused so much havoc that Lord Balram had to kill him. So sometimes this happens when someone is very powerful, but becomes very disappointed, very frustrated. So Lord realized that, the Yadavas, the descendants in the Yadu dynasty, these personalities are very powerful. So they have to also go back. So he made this arrangement as Prabhashyat, where he is making them forget about their true identity and causing a quarrel among themselves. And using Brahmana's curse to make that happen. And before Brahmana's curse, it was the Dasha's wives, Gandhari's curse. So right after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna meets with Gandhari, she says that just like all my sons were killed, I curse that all of your other dynasty members are also killed. Now this is in Padma Puran, given very elaborately, and Mahabharata. Mahabharata has this very clearly identified. And Lord Krishna is smiling and accepting it, because he was already feeling burden of love. When you are going at some place, far away place, you want to take your family members, you love them so dearly, and it's more fun, right? Raise your hand if you like to just go on a nice trip to another place, and you could take your family members, but you would not take them. I don't see any hands up. So raise a hand if you want to take them. So that you can all enjoy. Yes, I see now hands coming up. So yes, this is where we want, because where does happiness comes from? It comes from relationships, right? Loving exchanges. And that is what is enabling us to really feel satisfied at heart. And when Lord is in the center, that happiness becomes transcendental bliss. It's completely sublime. We are on a different platform altogether. And I remember many times when we go, we take for Rath Yatra to New York, the whole bus, everyone is chanting and singing, and we are having sumptuous prasadam. The whole 4.5 hours, it feels like we just started 5 minutes back. Where did the time fly by? And such is the feeling, again, when we are in company with others and we are having such nice, loving exchanges. And many times we have traveled in, planes and cars and buses. If we become friendly with the, person next to us or in front of us, and we start conversing, time flies. That's the nature of this world. And so Lord, he also was feeling that if I leave and they are left behind, I feel that separation. I won't have that loving exchange with me. So the second factor is, this is a burden of love. He wants to take them with him. So the eternal associates went back with the Lord. Yes, Pradyumna, Niruddha, they are his expansions, and many of the Vishnu Tattvas, they also went back. However, they were demigods. And some of the demigods unknowingly committed some offenses from their mind. So again, offenses can be committed by any of the three activities. The activities can be performed three ways: by words, by our mind, and by our body, by our senses. So these are the three ways any activity can be performed. So similarly, offenses, some of them had committed offenses in their mind, thinking that we are as powerful as the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Krishna. We don't really need him. We can be as good as him. Once somebody thinks that, boom, pride comes in, pride cometh before fall. So Lord Krishna sent all those personalities who had this thought back to their demigod positions, back to the heavenly planets. But those who were fully surrendered and understood the potency of the Lord and took shelter in his service with pure devotion service, performing for his pleasure, they were able to go along with him. So again, those are the Raganugas. So they are following the eternal associates, and thus they are able to go back home, back to Godhead. Now it's very interesting. When we talk about Lord coming and appearing and Lord going back to his abode, it appears very much like sunrise and sunset. There is a specific given time when Lord would appear, that's given in the Shastras. In midday of Brahma, every day of Brahma, there is one occurrence of the Lord at a very specific time, and then the duration is there, and then he would disappear. Now, that is just like the rising of the sun and setting of the sun. When the sun sets, is it dead? What has happened to sun? Please share in the chat. What happens to sun once it sets? Is it a new sun coming up next day, or is it the same sun that set yesterday? So it's very interesting that it is the same sun. It's our vision that sees things differently. And when we see things differently, we don't really understand that absolute truth is unchangeable, which actually make people wonder, wait a minute, absolute truth is unchangeable. What does that mean? Does that mean that Lord's form never changes? The answer is yes. Then people say, but wait a minute, he was a baby when he was picked up by Trinavarta and he held the neck of Trinavarta, made him fall, the whirlwind demon. And he was, a toddler when he killed Bakasur. And he was, 5-year-old when he killed Aghasur. He was, Navyavana when he killed Kamsa. And on the battlefield, so many times with Jarasangha Swami, he killed so many personalities. Again, Lord Krishna didn't kill, Vishnu and Krishna kills. However, yes, same sun. Yes, exactly. I am seeing the same response, same sun. Yes, it is the same sun. So it's very interesting that absolute truth is also present on various planets. And his form on another planet is that of a toddler. On another planet is that of a baby, another planet that of a youthful man, and another planet with like Dwarka, all those different. However, his true form, from which all these have expanded because of his internal potency, that's also an important aspect. Because of his internal potency, again, Chitta, Aladani, and Samvit Shakti, they have caused these expansions. So it is very interesting. When we look at a movie, it may appear like things are moving constantly. But in reality, there are multiple pictures going through the frame at a fast speed, right? And we understand from science that if something is going more than 15 seconds, 15 frames per second, it will appear like as if things are moving on the screen. So same thing is happening. There are unlimited planets, spiritual planets, and to our vision in Vrindavan Leela, Gokul Leela, Mathura Leela, Dwarka Leela, these are visible at different times, yet at the same time, the flow and the transition is so smooth that it appears like Lord is, growing up. But in reality, absolute truth is unchangeable. And this we can understand from the commentaries of Acharyas when we take a deeper dive. And here, when Lord Krishna is trying to go back home, back to Godhead, again, back to his abode, there is also another aspect that Acharyas say. But which Lord are we talking about? This is the Dwarkadhish, Vasudev Krishna we are talking about. On the other hand, Acharya says Krishna Vrindavan. Right? So is this personality. So I can be at one place, you can be at one place, but Lord can be at one time, every place. And one of the example is the super soul in our heart. Even though he is one, he appears divided because of our consciousness. And so Lord, he wants to continue his pastimes with his eternal associates. He makes those eternal associates also become visible. And it is by the influence of Yoga Maya that they forget that they just did the similar pastime in one universe. Now it's becoming visible in another universe. And so the phases are passing on through the universes. And each day of all the Brahmas in each of the universes are experiencing at a given time, Lord is appearing, and at a given time, Lord is leaving, going back to his abode. Yet Lord is performing eternal Ras Leela at his Golok Vrindavan abode. Srila Prabhupada said, if that dance stops, then everything is finished. So Ras Leela is constantly going on from that perspective. Hare Krishna. So here in this particular verse, we learned so many important lessons. We saw Lord likes to glorify his devotees, and his devotees like to glorify Lord. So that's a very important aspect. Nobody wants to take credit. They all want to glorify. So we as devotees should glorify Lord and his pure devotees. That will empower us with the ability to be able to follow in their footsteps, to become as tolerant and as humble as we see the Pandavas were. And how blissful Lord was when he was seeing that they never deviated from the path. It's very interesting. One of the interesting lessons also is, I think I've covered this in this forum before. Yudhishthira Maharaj, he follows Vedic injunctions perfectly, all the laws perfectly, and most of the time it hurts him. Duryodhana, he follows the laws perfectly only when it is going to profit him. Lord Krishna, he doesn't follow any of the laws because he's breaking all the laws for the benefit of his devotees, for the glorification of his devotees. So that's first lesson. Second is that Lord's pastimes, as they are going from one universe to another, Lord is making himself visible, carrying out. He is feeling the burden of love. So he wants to take all his eternal associates and his devotees, the Raganugas, those who have taken and performed pure devotional service in a specific pastime. And this is a snowball effect. You know, the snowball effect is that when the ball is rolling, it's collecting more and more and more snow. So it's increasing. And sometimes people will say, that means as Lord is approaching for the universes, number of associates may be increasing. Yes, because the further universes are much bigger than our planet Earth. That's also it's our small universe that we have. Our universe, in this particular universe that we are, is one of the smallest universes. So as we go, the universe's size increases, and that's why you see Brahmas having, tens heads, hundreds of heads, thousands of heads, 10,000s of heads, even 100,000s of heads. So again, because they have to manage such and such big universes, which means they have so many more living entities, and so Lord's associates continue to increase. But at the same time, they are eternally existing and entering the spiritual realm while making themselves visible in the Bhauma, Vrindavan or Bhauma Dwarka, and so many other places in different universes. Hare Krishna. So this is where we would like to end. Any questions or comments at this time? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kanthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Any questions or comments? Yes, Sadhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful, beautiful Krishna Katha. It's amazing. Krishna is so kind and merciful because I thought of a question, and as soon as I thought of the question, you attempted answering the question, even though I had not asked you. But you attempted answering the question. And the question is, why did Lord Krishna say that his clan, the Yadavas, will become a burden to Mother Earth? And you attempted explaining, but I still didn't get the full reason why these Yadavas are great personalities, demigods, demigoddesses that took birth. And so they are divine. So why would they become a burden to Mother Earth? Hare Krishna.
We actually covered it in the purport as well, Sadhya Prabhu, where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives the example. This is burden of love, not burden of beast. So yes, burden, true. But what kind of burden? Just like husband, a wife feels burden of her husband. She has to serve her husband. She has to take care of her husband. She has to cook for him. She has to provide for him when he comes back from work. She has to make sure that he's ready in time when he goes to work. So many activities she has to do. She has to cook. She has to clean. She has to, arrange things nicely just because of the presence of her husband. So it may appear like she has to do all these things because her husband is there. If there was no husband, she could be carefree. All these extra chores would go away. But in reality, she loves this burden because in response, by giving this service, her husband becomes pleased with her and has living exchanges. That's where the true happiness comes. On material platform, people can say, yes, the husband will provide her with nice saris and will provide her with nice house to live in, nice jewelry and so forth, gifts, which is dadati pratigrahati, right? The exchange of gifts. But our actions speak louder than words. So it's more about having that relationship. The wife doesn't, even though she has to do all these chores, this is a burden, right? But it's a burden of love because she is experiencing joy in this burden. She is doing it for a person she loves. So Lord Krishna is feeling the same thing, that they are my burden of love. So again, I will be feeling burden if I'm separation with them, the eternal associates and the Raganugas who have joined the force as well. While the demigods who are appearing as descendants, what would they do? They will get bewildered just like Dvida gorilla did. And then they would become a burden of beast afterwards. Srila Jiva Goswami also confirms this by saying that they would become just like Dvida gorilla became burden of beast. They would turn from burden of love to burden of beast. So they have to go back to their heavenly planets as well. And he had said that my mission is to release the burden of earth. So he wants to make sure that the burden of beast, even the futuristic perspective, if there is a possibility, they have to be released. While the burden of love should be carried with him because he will feel otherwise separated. He's Atmaram, yes. But at the same time, Lord Krishna is more eager to take us back home than we are eager to go back home. That's also is given and has been instructed by the Acharyas. So he is more eager to take his eternal associates. So those are the main two reasons. I can dive into so many of the secondary ones, but I don't think that would.
Yeah, well, thank you, Prabhu. But this burden of beast is there because of how strong the Yadavas were.
Yes.
And because they are descendants of Krishna himself. Now, so it will be very difficult for any other being to defeat them.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead.
Okay, so in contrast to that,
yes,
this same Krishna appeared as Sri Nityananda Ram. And Nityananda Ram had a disciple,
yes,
Abhiram Thakur.
yes.
But this Abhiram Thakur was able to kill quite a number of Nityananda's children. How was it possible for a Jiva Atma, to kill the children of the Supreme Lord in Nityananda Ram's pastime, but no one can kill the children of Krishna in Krishna's Leela?
So again, what you're asking is a very deeper topic, so I'll try to touch on that. Nothing can happen unless Lord sanctions it, right? We heard about Shadgarbhas, the 6 sons of Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma got bewildered by Maya, and that was a specific scenario. They laughed at him. So Lord Brahma said, you laughed at me, you become like demons. And they ended up being born as sons of Kalnemi. And then they saw the demons and demigods and they became fearful. So they prayed to the Lord and they were given the boon that they will not be killed by the demigods. Hiranyakashipu came to know. He said, you will not be killed by the demigods, you will be killed by your own father. So in the next life, they were born as 6 sons of Devaki, and Kalnemi was born as Kamsa, and Kamsa killed all these 6 boys. And they went back to Bali Maharaja's abode, and that's where they were, and Lord Krishna retrieved them before they went back home, after having tasted the same milk that Lord Krishna had tasted. So again, from Mother Devaki. So Lord allows various things to happen as part of different arrangements. One of the important things in the pastime that you have mentioned is that we see the mercy of the Lord. Lord doesn't even hold mercy from materialists. He's so kind to the karmis. He's so kind even to the demons that he does not withhold his mercy even from them. And yet at the same time, he shows by his example that all these pastimes are happening and how tolerant we have to be. We have seen from practical applications, when Lord Krishna was in Mathura and Dwarka, there was constant attacks happening. Kalnemi attacked, Jarasandha attacked, Shalva attacked Dwarka. So, and many of the Yadavas, they were killed on those battlefields. It's not that they were not killed. The descendants of Krishna were not, but many other soldiers that were part of the army. And so much so that Pradyumna even fainted in one of them. And somebody could say, how could Pradyumna faint? He is Vishnu Tattva. How could a Jiva be so powerful that he would make a Vishnu Tattva faint? So again, these are very deep pastimes where Lord is saying that understand the nature of this material world. Well, Lord, he is the husband of the goddess of fortune. In Ramayana, it's given that Lord Ram had to take Vanvas, go and live in jungle for 14 years. He's the husband of the goddess of fortune. What do you mean he has to go to the forest? He's showing by his example the nature of this material world. Even in this particular pastime, which is referred to as removing the burden of love, he's showing to the conditioned souls, to us, that nothing is permanent in this world. Everything has, beginning and an end. And the 6 kind of exchanges, they happen in the body. Yet at the same time, our focus is not this material world. Our focus is not the happening of this material, but how we behaving for the pleasure of the Lordship. That's why Lord sets the example of Pandavas. That's why he's setting the example of Barbarika. Well, Barbarika is a great devotee of the Lord. He's the grandson of Bhima. And Lord has just asked him to chop off his head and give it to him. Right? How could Lord ask that? We hear so many pastimes where we see the example of Vritrasur. He's a devotee of the Lord. And Lord's giving Indra the weapon to kill Vritrasur. So he's telling, ask for bones of Dadichi, and Vishwakarma will make a weapon, the thunderbolt, Vajra, that will kill Vritrasur. Lord is giving this. And just by giving this instruction, he's actually asking 2 of his devotees to give up their body, Vritrasur as well as Dadichi Muni. But both of the devotees, they go back home, back to Godhead. That's more important. What happens to the body is not so important. But they are going back home, back home is more important. So Lord, even though he seems to be allowing someone to do things, he is actually enabling those children to go back home quickly and effectively. So that's the response I have. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the response. But if you would allow me, I still have one more. I think I have 2, but I will go with the first one. And that is, you talked about Vipralamba. love and separation.
Yes.
Now, Uddhava is having so much ecstasy describing Krishna's Leela to Vidur. And he is having this reminiscence of who Krishna was when Krishna was physically with him.
Yes.
And therefore he's deriving so much joy, love, and ecstasy. Now, in the case of me, Richard Paul Sahadev sitting here, I don't know when I last had any interaction with Krishna. I do not see Krishna. So how do I then develop this intense love of separation for Krishna? I don't recall the last time I ever had any interaction with Krishna. Therefore, it makes it very difficult for me to have this love of separation for Krishna. Krishna is not here with me physically. I know he's here in the form of the deity, which I haven't developed that personal relationship with him. So my question in short is, how do I, who have not had relationship with Krishna, miss him so much in his physical absence with me on this earth planet? How do I do that?
Hare Krishna. So beauty is in the eye of beholder. So when we go in front of deities, so again, do you feel everyone in the temple is on the same level, looking at the deities with the same power? No, we know that, right? There are some people who are coming to the temple thinking, oh, he owns everything, so I can ask just a little bit. And there's some jokes made on that as well. The person says, Lord, you're eternal and you're the owner of everything. Can you give me $1 million? So what's $1 million to you? Lord says, just change. And then what's eternity to you? Just a few seconds. So he says, can you give me $1 million? Lord says, just in a second. Right? So again, different people come with different feelings. And in 18th chapter, it is also described that when worship is done, it could be in 3 different modes. This is more of a rajasic, passionate mode, like I want something. And then comes sattvic, that I don't want anything. Lord has provided me so much, I want to engage everything in Lord's service. It's a different view of looking at things. And sometimes person is in front of us, but we are not, our senses are defective that we do not recognize their presence. Krishna is everywhere. The moment we have that vision, then we realize that actually it is me not seeing Krishna. Krishna is present. Yet at the same time, I want to have that exchange. And Srila Prabhupada says that when we read Bhagavad Gita, we are actually getting exactly the same instructions as Arjuna received face to face. We are receiving the same instructions. When we are engaged in the understanding the pastimes and looking at Acharya's tikas or purports, then we are actually diving deep into those leelas, those pastimes, and Krishna is there. It is a mindset. It is, we feel the same emotions that we are experiencing that in those leelas the devotees are facing. When we hear about Gajendra pastime, hearing that, the crocodile has got his foot, we actually sometimes retract our foot thinking, how painful that would have been. We are feeling like, how could he be struggling? Because we are feeling the pain, right? And when you see that he is, and even with that pain, he is picking up a lotus flower offering to the Lordship. Oh, how exalted, how much happy he is that he is seeing his Lord has come. Lord Hari has come to save him. And Lord, he knew that Garun would not be able to reach in time, so he started running towards Gajendra while Garun, flew and tried to catch up with Lord. So it's a beautiful pastime that Garun will be too slow to reach Gajendra in time. This is Lord's, emotions, and we can actually experience what to experience with at the material level, because we are not material body, we are spiritual beings, and we are filled with so much feelings and desires. Those are the ones that count. The physical separation is only an external factors. Internally, there is no separation. It's only that we have to open our eyes. Yes, when we try to open our eyes from material perspective, we cannot see. But when we open our eyes and see from the eyes of Shastras, from the eyes of devotees, from the eyes of acharyas, then we are actually having one-on-one interaction, because he's right there in our heart, directly having reciprocation with us. Hare Krishna. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, it does. It does. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very beautiful to have your association and wisdom. So beautiful. So, dear devotees, if someone else has something to ask or share, please, you may do so. Talika Prabhu, are you there? All right.
Hare Krishna.
We go to Sham Gopal. Sham Gopal Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Babu, Dandot Pranam. So when the Mother Earth went to Lord, right, because the burden was unbearable because of the untruthfulness of all the kings. So now also we see the similar kind of thing. So is this is worse than the situation at that time, or this is still going to get worse, and after that it will become burden to earth, and then something has to be done.
So this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the current times, right? And what did he provide to us? He said, I'm not going to annihilate like externally, like what's happening in the previous yugas. I will destroy those negative feelings, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsara, lust, anger, pride, envy, greed, delusion, from the heart, so that the living entity becomes pure. And that's why they provided us. So he does come, but he comes as his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, to deliver all the living entities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I think that also get explained in the Jagai Madai pastime. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Srimad Varahap Acharya.
Yeah, Srimad Prabhu, please.
We cannot hear you, Prabhu.
Now, Srimad Prabhu, okay, good.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to all the devotees. Thank you very much for the wonderful delivery, and I particularly love your answer to the first question of Sade Prabhu. That's very enlightening, enlightened answer. Just a contribution. I didn't fully hear your second answer to the second question. Somebody came disturbing me. I'm blocking the track. But I just have a contribution. I had up to the time where you were mentioning, how people relate to the deities differently. And then somebody came disturbing my attention. But I have one contribution. I think we also learned that our relationship to the gurus, how we relate to them, and if we feel separation from our guru, that is also like feeling separation from Krishna, because the guru actually is not different from the external manifestation of Krishna. That is what we learn, unless we don't believe that. So we may not remember when we've ever had any relation with Krishna. But if you really see the guru as a external manifestation of Krishna, and you develop that kind of attachment loving sentiment in separation. It's as good as being like a Krishna. So that's just my contribution. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
your wonderful lecture. Hare Krishna.
Very, very nice comment, Prabhu. So when we feel separation from Krishna, we pick up Srimad Bhagavatam and we feel solace. And when we feel separation from Acharyas, we pick up their books and we read them, just like the reflections by His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. He amazingly gives so many, and again, I have so many of these reflections, I keep reading again and again over here. And I just finished this one. This is a reflection on Harinam Chintamani, glories of the holy name, and how he is talking about that Harinam is the key to the house, to the spiritual home that we can enter. And this whole process is like a roadmap. So once we have the key, we follow the authorized instructions from our Guru, and ultimately we are able to enter by the mercy of Guru. So again, that's why we read these books, to keep reminding us and fill in the void that we have because of the separation that we experience in our lives. And he is present in his Vani form. So there is Vapu, his physical presence, and there is Vani, his instructions. And it is said that Vani Seva is much higher than Vapu Seva. So if he was present, himself, and we serve him, that's not as great a Seva than by serving his instructions, by following his instructions. That will completely destroy the separation aspect and keep us directly in touch. Srila Prabhupada also said the same thing. He never felt separated from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, just because he was following Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's instructions. Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. And Srimad Acharya Prabhu, thank you for the contribution. It helps a lot. Yeah. Anyone else with something to share? Well, there is some appreciation in the chat room from Baisaki. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving us this opportunity for hearing Nectarian Krishna Katha, where you have so wonderfully explained different pastimes. I especially like the part of the Vipralamba dance. Yeah, I also love it. Right, Saki. Thank you. Prabhuji, if I may bother you with one final question, which is not directly related to today's wonderful katha, but it came across very briefly because we are talking about we live on this earth planet, which is kind of insignificant to many other planets within this universe. And our universe is also insignificant compared to other universes within the material world. Now, some devotees are with the opinion, which is scriptural, that any soul that lives on this earth planet and is unable to go back to Godhead will have to come back to this earth planet to practice devotional service in order to be able to go back to Godhead. Now, my question is, if that is the case, does that mean that all souls within the different planets in this universe will have to be born on this earth planet to practice devotional service to be able to go back to Godhead? Or souls on other planets within this universe and probably in other universes can also practice devotional service wherever they are at and be able to go back to Godhead?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for asking that question. So first, let's understand from the scriptures, there are 14 planes of planets. We are on the earthly planets. Earth is one of the earthly planets. So there are many earthly planets. We just happen to be on one earthly planet, which we refer to as Earth. Yes, Shastras talk about for conditioned souls who are constantly wandering, like a Ferris wheel. Srila Prabhupada gives this example, going up to the heaven, going down to the hellish, going up. And then it's very interesting. We talk about hellish planets, but the hellish planets we go when, as a human form of life, we have received, and yet we are not able to meet the purpose of life, then we have to experience both. You go to in front of the Lord of Death, Yamraj, and he basically says, Chitragupta gives your account, says, these are the good activities, these are the bad activities. And Yamraj says, which one do you want to enjoy? And he gives us various options. Because of those good activities, you are entitled to have these things. Because of your sinful activity, you are entitled to have these different things. And sometimes we make our choice. That's the part of free will. He honors that. So sometimes people can say, okay, I would like to take these, go to this heavenly planet, enjoy it, and then come back. Or if hellish condition, I have to go to this hellish, these many hells and suffer, and then I would come back. However, when you go through the hellish conditions, there's something that's happening. What's happening is our consciousness is going down from a human form to that of an animal form. And that's the animal yoni we take afterwards to continue our cycle. And we have to go through the, extending later to finally to come to the human form. And the humans are born on earthly planets. And so we can come out. And if we meet the purpose of human life, which is to attain love of Godhead. That's why the verse says, Brahman bhavite kaun bhagyavan jiva Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bija. So we are constantly wandering in this material world, but by the mercy of Guru, we get bhakti, and because of bhakti, we can get released. Now, your question also pertains, can other living entities also cross over? Yes, answer is yes. And they are not going through this happiness distress cycle. They are going through their regular performance of their activities as given to them by the Lordship. Ishavasya principle comes into effect here. So we see that Lord Brahma, first time when a living entity comes into this material world, becomes vimukha, turns his back to Lord Krishna. He's allowed to come to the material world. But even before that, the messengers of the Lord, they show this is what material world looks like before you go there. And at that particular time, the living entity is thinking, I'm so powerful, I can easily cross over, I can easily defeat this material energy, I can be the lord of this material energy. And so they get an opportunity to come into this material world. But what role do they come first time when they come? So sometimes when they're cursed, like Vijay were cursed, they come as demons, as those. But what's the regular cycle? What's the general cycle? They become Brahma of a universe. And 99.99999% of the cases, these Brahmas are able to attain love of Godhead and go back home, back to Godhead. And not just that they are going back alone, they are actually able to bring many living entities along with them back to Godhead. So that's happening at the Brahma Loka, Jana Loka, Tapo Loka at different levels. And Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami, there it is revealed that many of the demons even are able to go back to Vaikuntha planets, and they still have their demon forms. Not everyone in Vaikuntha planet has the four-arm form of the Lord. Many of them, when they are killed by the Lord, then they get that four-arm form, but many of them are just going in their existing form after having attained pure devotion service of the Lord. So yes, others can also go, but in reality, the human form comes on the earthly planets, which is a perfect combination of happiness and distress. And by the mercy of the Lord and one's endeavor, one's surrender, one is able to surrender to a Guru, as instructed by Chaitya-Guru, the Lord in our heart, the Super Soul, and thus following the instructions can attain the perfection in this very life. So we all have this opportunity. So let's not waste it. Let's follow the instructions of Acharyas. And again, one of the separation aspect that we talked about earlier is when we are following the instructions of our spiritual masters. We may not know, but it's actually making our spiritual master and Krishna very happy, because they are blessing us. Super soul, he is the cause who has caused us to take shelter of a guru. And he, along with our spiritual master, is blessing us to progress further on a true path to attain perfection in this very life. So Srila Prabhupada says, don't waste time. We don't have much time left. We don't know what's going to happen next moment. Parikshit Maharaj knew 7 days, but we don't know. So we should use every moment to purify our existence and go back home, make an arrangement to return and not suffer here. We are in this material world, but not of this material world. Finish the business, yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. And we pray that we finish our business in this particular lifetime and go back home, back to Godhead. And it's very interesting to learn that when we talk of an earthly planet, it is not just this our Earth planet. There are other planets that are also understood to be earthly planet. So that's very beautiful. Dear devotees, without further ado, we think we may bring this class to an end. We cannot sufficiently thank our revered speaker, His Grace JIVA TATTVA, for sharing his love and wisdom with us again. And we hope to have his association more and more. And with that being said, devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Muhammad to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace JIVA TATTVA Prabhu. Please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Ram Ram,
Rama,
Rama Hare Hare.
Panchakarpata Yogabhyasta, Kripa Sindhubhyasiva, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. His Grace JIVA TATTVA Prabhu ki Jai. Vaishnava Thakur ki Jai. Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.